Adventure motorcycle riding is all the rage right now, and for good reason. Nothing beats the feeling of exploring the backcountry on two wheels, carrying everything you need to be self-sufficient on the back of a bike that is both comfortable and fun to ride. But ADV riding can also be very expensive. There's a reason the stereotypical ADV rider is a rich dentist on a GS sipping $7 lattes at Starbucks. This barrier to entry has prevented many a would-be adventurer from chasing their dreams of backcountry discovery. Fortunately, manufacturers have begun to recognize this obvious need, and there are a ton of great adventure bikes that have been released or will be released soon that are capable, comfortable, and affordable. I've put together a list of my 6 favorite ADV bikes that you can buy for less than $7,000. Why $7,000? Well, first, because the 6 bikes I picked all just happen to come in under $7,000, but 2, because that way with a modest budget of $10,000, you can buy a bike for $7,000 and have enough left over to get a full set of riding gear, some luggage, and all the moto camping gear you need to be out and having your adventures immediately. $10K out the door and you're set up with a setup that will theoretically last you forever, and you'll only be paying for maintenance, gas, and insurance going forward. So while $10K is no small chunk of change, it is a small price to pay for a lifetime of adventure. Before we jump into the list, I just want to say thank you to Moto Camp Nerd for sponsoring this video. Moto Camp Nerd is a great place to pick up all that riding gear, camping gear, and luggage, and we'll talk about what I mean in a bit. Let's jump into the list of bikes, starting with the cheapest and working our way up to the most expensive. So the number 1 least expensive bike on this list is the new Royal Enfield Himalayan 450, which has a starting retail of $57.99. This bike is very approachable with a seat that's adjustable and goes all the way down to 31.7 inches. It weighs 432 pounds, and while it's a fantastic bike, one limiting factor is that the suspension is not adjustable. It is rear preload only. However, I have been very impressed with this bike. It is a huge improvement over its predecessor. It has that approachable seat height at 31.7 inches. There are a ton of accessories and aftermarket parts available already. The OEM stuff is really good and shockingly reasonably priced. You can pay $800 and get both a set of pannier racks and a set of hard aluminum panniers that are just as good as anything that you would pay $2,000 for from GV or Touratech. And that $800 is a lot cheaper than a lot of soft luggage setups out there, although I prefer the soft luggage setups for mostly off-road riding if that's what you're planning on doing. This bike is incredibly easy to ride. It is both highway and freeway capable. I've had it up to the low 90s and been passed by someone else on the same bike at that speed, so it has plenty of speed. It's plenty comfortable at reasonable highway speeds of 75-ish. It's stable and planted in the dirt. The suspension is not adjustable, but it's very solid for what it is. It's not some no-name setup. It's a Showa setup, and I just keep raving about, despite the fact that I can't adjust it, they got it in a real sweet spot, I think, because even my corpulent posterior cannot bottom it out. The stock tires aren't great, but they're good enough to get you started. They're great on the pavement. They're not great in anything looser than a gravel road. Now, it's true that Royal Enfield doesn't have the same reputation for reliability as the Japanese brands, but they do offer a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty on the new Himalayan. Resale value is also a question mark, but this is a bike you could theoretically ride forever, unless you end up wanting a bike with more passing power and or one that you can ride a little more aggressively off the pavement. But for the most part, it hits a real sweet spot for us mere mortals, and it'll do everything you want it to do and then some, and I've been super impressed with it. So I recommend the Himalayan 450, or at least recommend you check it out, give it a test ride if you can, and especially if you like that retro styling. There is no bike that looks like a Royal Enfield on the market today that you can get brand new. Second bike on the list is one that if you've watched any of my videos, you knew was going to creep its way in, but it is the Honda CRF 300L Rally, which retails for $61.99, has a 35.2-inch seat height, weighs 331 pounds, which is much lighter than most of the other bikes on this list, and is also only rear preload adjustable. The CRF 300L Rally is technically a dual sport, but it always makes its way into my ADV recommendations because it's a great bike, it's not expensive, and it's more highway capable than you think. The 300L is only 300 cc's, so it's not a speed demon, but it will do 70 miles per hour reliably. What it lacks in on-road prowess, it makes up for in ease of riding when you leave the pavement. It's light, easy to ride, and bulletproof reliable. It's also unique. There aren't many factory spec light ADV bikes out there. This is a dual sport that they've added a larger gas tank, a fairing, and a windscreen to give you that more adventure-y feel, to make it more of a on and off-road bike. It has decent fuel range for a dual sport with a 3.2 gallon tank, which gets me about 165 miles. It's not as comfortable as the others for sure. Because it's a dual sport, it needs a seat upgrade. They have that kind of 2x4-y hard and narrow seat. The soft suspension will get you started, but you want to get it set up for you specifically eventually. You want to have it resprung at the very least. The stock tires are garbage on anything loose or slippery, so they're fine on the gravel, they're fine on the road, they're not great in the sand, they're terrible in the mud. Still, I love my 300L. It is the bike that has been in my garage the longest at this point, and the one that I like to keep as a backup because I'm confident that it'll always be there and waiting if I need it, because it's bulletproof reliable. Whether I'm hitting single track or doing a multi-state freeway trip, I know the 300L will get me there and home again every single time. And the CRF 300L is only $6,200, which leaves you plenty of cash left over to buy gear. The best place to buy your motorcycle camping gear, your motorcycle riding gear, and your motorcycle luggage is Moto Camp Nerd, your one-stop shop for all things motorcycle adventure. That's right, Moto Camp Nerd has added riding gear and motorcycle luggage to the world's most carefully curated selection of motorcycle camping gear. Ben, the owner, is one of the most meticulous people I know, and he applies that laser focus to gear selection. Every single piece of camping gear, luggage, and riding gear has to meet his very exacting standards, and he's very nitpicky, believe me. Moto Camp Nerd is run by Ben and his wife Mary. Ben works the store in the mornings before going to his full-time job in the afternoons. When you buy gear from his site, you're supporting his dream of facilitating the adventures of others like you and I full-time. Got gear questions? Email and he'll answer them. Not sure what you even need to go on a motorcycle camping adventure? Ben has a free full moto camping gear checklist that will point you in the right direction. I've been working with Moto Camp Nerd since the site launched. I'm proud to work with them and fully support their mission of making other people's motorcycle camping and adventure dreams come true. Make sure you pop over to the site and check out all that Moto Camp Nerd has to offer. There's a link in the description, or you can just type in motocampnerd.com. The third of my 6 favorite affordable adventure bikes is the new kid on the block. It is the CFmoto Ibex 450. Retails for $6,500, has a 32-inch seat height, and weighs 431 pounds wet. This bike has full adjustable suspension, and that is just something you don't see in a bike that costs $6,500. The tires are tubeless, it weighs 430 pounds wet, which I saw verified in person when the two Jakes weighed it at the Get On ADV Fest in front of me. It has an approachable seat height at 32.3 inches and a ton of adjustability, including a lower seat that you can put on it. It's freeway capable. I've done 85 plus, and it is kick-ass off the road. It's a great feeling bike that can be ridden hard, and it needs nothing to get you started besides luggage and gasoline. CFmoto reliability is a question mark, and a lot of people will disregard it because it's made in China. I personally had a lot of questions and misconceptions and qualms, honestly, about the brand before I went to the Get On ADV Fest, met the American team, and got a chance to ride a couple of those bikes. The bikes are solid and the build quality is very impressive, and I think you'll be surprised if you give one a chance. My Ibex 450 is coming any day now, and I am stoked. I can't wait to show you all what it can do. The Ibex comes with decent stock tires. They're kind of clones of the Pirelli Scorpions, but you're definitely going to want to swap them out before you hit sand or mud. The fourth of my 6 favorite budget-friendly adventure bikes is the classic KLR 650 and the new KLR 650S. This bike retails for $68.99 starting, comes with a seat height of 34.3 inches standard and 32.1 inches on the S model, the shorter model. The KLR 650 is also technically a dual sport. It's a single-cylinder thumper, but it's one of the biggest dual sports around and one of the most common first ADV bike choices. I challenge you, go to any rally and throw a rock. I guarantee you'll hit someone who has either had a KLR or who currently owns one. The new KLR that was upgraded a few years ago has been improved with fuel injection and a bunch of other upgrades, and like I said, it's available in an S model with a shorter seat height from the factory. The KLR is one of the most reliable motorcycles ever made, aside from the whole doohickey controversy, which is a rabbit hole I'm not going to jump into at the moment. The KLR, in my opinion, is a unique hybrid of ADV and dual sport ideologies and styling and capabilities. There is a ton of aftermarket support for the KLR because it's been out forever. There is a ton of community knowledge to tap into because the bike is popular and it's been out forever. And the KLR 650 has one of the most comfortable stock seats I've ever sat on because it has thick padding and is about as wide as a love seat. One big disadvantage to the KLR 650 is that it's only a 5-speed, so keep that in mind. It'll still cruise at highway speeds, but some people get very wrapped up in that, and I will say it is slightly annoying because it's buzzy at higher speeds, but it's not at all intolerable. The KLR 650 is not the most modern or most stylish bike on this list, but it does have a unique charm. You'll just have to ride one to understand. Number 5 favorite affordable adventure bike is the Suzuki DR650, which retails for $69.99, so we're pushing that $7,000 mark. Has a seat height of 34.8 inches, weighs 366 36 pounds wet and has a suspension that is not adjustable, preload only in the rear. The DR650 is a cousin to the KLR 650 in a lot of ways. They're both Japanese single-cylinder dual sports. They've both been around forever. They're both bulletproof reliable. They both have a massive aftermarket, a massive cult following, and they're both technically dual sports but have been used as ADV bikes by many for thousands of miles, and both the KLR 650 and the DR650 can be picked up fully farkled, that is accessorized out and ready to go on an adventure at a significant savings if you look at the used market. But the DR is also different from the KLR in some very significant ways. Number one, it's carbureted. That is not something you'll see on any other bikes on this list. It has an outdated design. It's like riding a time machine. It's like, I wonder what it was like to ride motorcycles in 1982. Well, hop on the DR650 and you'll know exactly what it was like. No ABS, no modern features, no fuel injection, analog dash, all that. It's 100 pounds lighter than the KLR 650, and it has the same and or slightly more horsepower depending on who you ask. And there is zero wind protection on the DR650, unlike the KLR that has that fairing and windscreen. Of the dual sports on this adventure bike list, the DR650 is the purest and most dual sport because there's no fairing and no windscreen. You can add one, but it doesn't come with it. The DR650 is basic, simple, and easy to work on. In my review, I called it dual sport motorcycling in its purest form, and I stand by that. It's a great choice in terms of reliability and off-road ability, but it's also one of the least comfortable for long highway stints. It ain't broke, so Suzuki has not tried to fix it. It does not matter what year DR650 you get, they're pretty much all the same. Find one with low miles and a ton of mods and hit the road, or buy a new one and have a ton of cash left over to customize your setup. And the sixth and final bike on my list of my favorite affordable adventure bikes is the upcoming KTM 390 Adventure R, which will retail for $69.99. They just confirmed all these details last month. It's going to have a 34.8-inch seat height, weigh 390-ish pounds, and have a fully adjustable suspension. This is the one bike on the list I have no hands-on experience with because it's not out yet. But let's look at the stats. 388 pounds wet claimed, which would make it the lightest ADV bike that I'm aware of. It's not lighter than the dual sports on this list, but in terms of a multi-cylinder adventure bike, it is one of the lightest or the lightest out there. 44 horsepower, 35-inch seat height, so it's a little taller, but not insurmountable, pun intended. It has cruise control standard. There are no other bikes remotely close to this price point that come with cruise control, at least in the adventure category. It also has 3 ride modes. It has lean-sensitive ABS and traction control. It has the best electronic suite in this entry-level budget adventure bike class by far. It is basically the same package that you see on the 790 and the 890 Adventure, and that is a huge upgrade over anything offered on any of the other bikes. Some, like the 300L and the DR650, have nothing. If you want electronics, if you want all those fancy rider aids in a inexpensive package, then this 390 Adventure R is definitely worth a look. It's both approachable and incredibly capable, and I just think better in every way than the previous 390 Adventure. But it is a KTM, so there are some question marks when it comes to reliability. As an example, KTM electronics do not have the best reputation, and they don't seem to fix ever any of the persistent flaws. But at least this isn't the LC8 engine design, which is the one that has had all those camshaft issues and stuff. Rest assured that you're not dealing with the cheese cams and all of that stuff that is so popular to complain about on the internet right now. The other big question mark is the future of KTM, but I don't think there's any way they cease to exist. I think they're going to restructure and come back strong. So those are my 6 favorite budget adventure bikes. There are a lot of other budget ADV bikes out there, like the CB500X, the NX500, the Versys X300, the old Himalayan 411, etc. But none of them measure up to these 6 in terms of both on and off-road capability. Whether you're a true beginner, a street rider looking to try ADV, or an experienced off-roader, these are the best adventure bikes under $7,000, in my humble opinion. I have ridden all of these bikes except one. I love all these bikes except one because I haven't ridden it yet. I would happily own any and all of these bikes, many of which I have owned already. If you're looking for more info on entry-level ADV bikes, you can find a full breakdown of all the available entry-level adventure bikes in my beginner ADV tier list video, which I'll link for you. Thank you to Moto Camp Nerd for sponsoring this video. Please pop over to the site, check it out, and tell them Dork sent you. Thank you all for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!